So great. Now we're going to talk about why government sometimes regulates business. So we're shifting from kind of how business regulates government to how government regulates business. And one of the reasons that government would intervene in business activities is because there are flaws in the market. And I don't know if you remember, but I talked about during, I guess it was a couple videos ago, that one of the legacies of Franklin Delano Roosevelt was that governments should intervene to make sure that markets function correctly. So what are some of these flaws in the market? Those of you that have taken neoclassical economics will of course be very familiar with these, but let's start with maybe natural monopoly. I can think of a couple of examples of a natural monopoly. A natural monopoly more or less occurs when a certain kind of business has managed to acquire all of the necessary and available resources for that business such that other businesses cannot acquire those costs, or cannot acquire those resources and therefore cannot establish their own business. You typically think of this where a company has a unique asset, or the fixed costs in that industry are so high that usually only the first entrant can be viable. So let me give a couple of examples. Let's say you've got a town and there's only one commercially zoned space available, and it's Bob's General Store. Well, Bob's General Store has a natural monopoly in that small town because nobody else in that town can build another store. It's just not possible because there's just one location, and that's owned by Bob. So that's a natural monopoly. But think of something like an oil and gas, right? An oil company or a gas company can also achieve a natural monopoly within a certain geographic region because of the fact that like an oil well is kind of a unique resource. There's like this one oil well here and that company owns it. That's a natural monopoly. But also because the fixed costs of exploiting oil and building the rigs and everything else associated with it are so high that other companies can't get in on that. Think about if you're just a local business person and you want to become an oil driller. Well, probably you don't have the money to do that, so you are excluded from entering the oil industry because larger companies have the financial capital available to build the equipment and acquire those resources needed for oil exploitation. So that's a natural monopoly. And a government, of course, tries to ensure free competition, so they would try to restrict the occurrence of natural monopolies. We also have destructive competition. Hopefully see me? Yeah, you can. Destructive competition. Now, destructive competition is when companies engage in practices that are designed to destroy the competition. Let me give an example. When I was a kid, we lived in this area, and there was a small family shop called Fazio's. And it was kind of like, it was like one of those little convenience stores that you could walk to and get milk and eggs and things like that. And I grew up in the Midwest for a while, so it'd be cold in the winter, and sometimes the roads would be iced over, and that was a place that you could get to relatively easy for your basic products. Now, a large supermarket chain that's going to remain nameless came into town, and they engaged in destructive competition. In other words, they made their prices so low that our local convenience store was unable to compete, and they went out of business. So it wasn't that they were even pricing things at market. We always thought that they were pricing their goods below the cost of production just in order to force out the local competitor. So of course, again, the government would frown upon this practice of deliberately trying to destroy the competition, so therefore they would intervene in the market. We also have externalities. Now, we typically think of externalities as a negative externalities, but there's also positive externalities. And externality means that one kind of a entity or the establishment of a new player in a certain region provides kind of benefits and burdens to individuals, typically in the immediate area, whether they want those benefits or not. Let me give an example. My childhood home in, well, I guess late childhood home in San Diego had this big empty lot next to it. And it had been a lot that was empty for years. And the guy that owned the lot was this multi-millionaire property developer, and he wanted to build kind of like a convalescent home and assisted living facility on this big empty lot within this residential development. And all the people in the area fought against that because they thought there would be negative externalities. And just think about it for a second of the negative externalities. One, it would have brought more traffic to the area because there had been people coming to see their loved ones in the convalescent home and everything. But also, you think about, for example, the noise of ambulances at night. Noise of ambulances at night, the possibility that people would be out of the convalescent home and wandering around. There were all sorts of issues that they thought would be providing negative impact on the community. So that's a negative externality. Because of the overwhelming negative externalities and the lawsuits that the community brought against the owner of this lot, they wound up building something else there. They built a restaurant, and it's kind of like a little mini mall there now. So the negative externality, of course, is that there's more traffic coming to that area, but the positive externality is now residents in that immediate area can walk to the restaurant and get coffee and not have to get in their car and drive anywhere and fight the San Diego traffic. So we can think of positive externalities and negative externalities. You could think of also, like in Los Angeles, where I am right now, they're building a metro line that's going to go, I believe, all the way through West LA. So the negative externality means that it's, of course, easier for people to get into certain areas of LA, so that could increase foot traffic and possibly provide a variety of disruptions. But of course, the positive externality is, I believe that homes located near a potential subway stop would increase in value because, quite frankly, nobody wants to fight LA traffic. So you benefit because of the fact that the subway station is located there. So positive and negative externalities. And then the last one is inadequate information. Inadequate information. So our friends in neoclassical economics always say that consumers have perfect access to all forms of information at any given time, right? So for example, when I go to the grocery store and I see one apple, I know how this apple compares in quality and price to every other apple in the entire world, and I can make the best possible decision about whether I should buy that apple or not. But in reality, we know that's not true, right? Consumers are frequently plagued by inadequate information. Think about, let's go back 100 years ago, right? You go to the grocery store, there might be 2 or 3 brands of peanut butter. You have no idea what's in the different kinds of peanuts, or peanut butter. Are there chemicals in it? Are there preservatives? Is there X, Y, and Z? And so as a consumer, I was not really able to make any sort of a good decision about which peanut butter would be best for me. I would just wind up buying the one with the blue top. But what we have is a great example of inadequate information. And so the government intervenes, for example, to make sure that firms properly display their information about corporate social responsibility, ingredients in food products, anything that a customer would want to know so that they can make good comparisons between different types of products. Great. So in our next video, we're going to talk about some of the things that the government provides in response to these flaws in the marketplace. I'll see you then.